All right, everyone. 2 weeks have passed. A lot of things have changed. A lot of upsets this weekend. Big things for the Six Nations. I would argue semi-big things for Super Rugby. Let's get into it.
I need all the wins, yeah. Ain't no L's, I gotta get a no call and quits, yeah. Gotta keep on moving no matter how hard.
Here comes Danny Tusizawa, back to Baker, Baker with the fin. Kurt Baker in for DC, and this may well do it old glory with the try. The New Zealand Sevens legend, Kurt Baker with the cherry on top.
Can you believe it?
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the On the Line Rugby Podcast, a show brought to you by the Believe Sports Network. I'm your host, Mike Nagaishi, and welcome back. As we said in the cold open, great weekend for Super Rugby, big weekend for Six Nations, a lot of shakeup, arguably in the championship points final for week 5. Ireland is now down. You got England and France jockeying for that second place. Ooh, it's going to be a good time. Let's get into it. As for the Six Nations, I would say a lot of the things that I thought were well from this weekend came from 2 games, Wales versus Scotland, and obviously the Ireland versus France. But let's break it down into the England putting on a clinic against Italy. Now, a lot of Italy's problems in this game were that they were unable to really push defenders out wide, shift them left, right. In our game, we call it ice. I'm sure in other countries you call it a different way. Just make sure that every man is marked up, that the defense has no possible gaps for the offense to exploit, and if they do, they have room to recover. Obviously, a lot of those early tries in the beginning were definitely preventable, especially to Tom Freeman, which should not have happened. Now, don't get me wrong. Tommy Freeman's a great guy. He plays for the Seattle Sharks. I love him. But a lot of those things in that try could have been very much defeated or at least slowed down. That try pie could have happened, but, maybe in a couple phases rather than just one straight one. As for everything else, you also just basics again. We see this in a lot of, the last couple years, especially in the international segment, of just really not focusing on, where are we in the defensive lineup? Are we tight? Is everybody bunched up? Who's marking our A, Bs, and Cs, or however you call it in other countries? Your 1, 2, and 3 gap. Who's managing that? Who's managing the guys out wide? How are we going to take the space? Just, basic communication skills that I think really matter in the game of rugby, I think should really have shown in the international segment. You're getting paid maybe not millions, but at least a good portion of dollars, pounds, euros, whatever you want, to play this great game of ours. And if you're not playing it the right way, you're going to get beat like this constantly over and over and over again. And also another thing, if you're looking at whether or not Jonah Lomu is out there, which, long gone, RIP, but there's no Jonah Lomus out there. Really, that I would say, outside of Will Jordan and Will Severis in the Super Rugby space, no real team has anybody to fear with that kind of power and strength like that, where you need to dedicate 2-3 guys into the tackle. Italy was dedicating 3 to 4 on, an average England player. And while I commend them for the effort to try to slow down their best players, you need to distribute the ball and your eyes amongst every guy you're marking up. And if that doesn't happen, you're going to get beat. And that's exactly what happened. I think the Chips versus the English rush D was very effective. Borthwick is known for his rush D. He's really put in a new spin on it this year. And I think the Italians did a good job, at least in the first half, of writing off that defense and really putting their own stamp on the game. It really put England on the back foot and allowed them to get Ange Capolozzo into big open field plays, set them up for the fear, which allowed that open backspace to come up. As for the fiery start from the Italians in the first half, I really didn't like how they kind of fizzled out, because they really got beat by 2 things: set piece, and obviously due to straight running. When you have guys like Will Stewart, who's arguably, in my opinion, one of the top young players, especially in the tight 5 position in the world right now. He's also the heaviest person in the England team, running it down at your throat day in and day out with that kind of motor that he has. There's not a lot of ability to really stop him and put a lot of front forward ball on him. So, obviously he's going to chip away at you, at that energy, at that ability to really put in your 110% effort in, and just straight set piece. When you're getting beat at the scrums, he's a big guy at that. When you're beating in lineouts, you have guys like Maro Itoje, Ollie Chessum, all those boys, Tom Curry, they're all great players at the lineout. In fact, they have a whole slew of them that they can easily modify, spin in and out, especially on the bench at that as well. You're going to get beat on that, and that's not going to lead well to your points margin, let alone your morale towards the end of the game. On top of that, I would really like to point out that the close and open swing door offense, that is what I'm trying to call it, just whether it's playing off a 9 or playing the set piece, just kick, like Springbok style offense, Irish style offense. Or if you're going to play like All Blacks or French team, wide open, expansive. You saw that switch when you saw Finn Smith come out from Marcus Smith, And I really like that ability to do that, that flip switch of the game plan. You could run the same thing with Finn Smith. Would it be as effective with Marcus? No. Should Marcus run the same thing as Finn Smith? Absolutely not. And that's exactly why that ability to change your playbook, basically when the new guy comes in, is such an important part of your game because the offense really doesn't know what to game plan for. Are they going to leave Finn Smith in for 40, 50 minutes? Is they going to leave him for the full match? Who knows? But you always have that fear and that ability to have to protect and game plan against multiple teams is going to force you to realize who's your biggest priority. And, obviously a couple things are going to get missed out, and that's one of them. I think lastly, this round 5 is going to be pivotal, absolutely pivotal to choosing who and what and where is going to win the game. You're going to be facing the two teams that are going to arguably push for the title, which is going to be England and France. Do I think England can pass a chance to win the title? Certainly. Do I think that chance is, medium to low? Yeah. The French have a great team, and we're going to discuss that in a later segment. But, I think when we're looking at it with that push-pull kind of style offense, you have that option to really, really stress the French and Fabien Galthier's, game plan and scheming to really stop this English team, which is looking very hot since the World Cup. I like what Borthwick's doing. I really think they have a chance. I would love to watch that game next week. We'll see what happens, but I'm putting my money on the underdog right now, which is the English. All right, let's go to the next game of Wales versus Scotland, a game that I thought was pivotal. Honestly, every game I've watched this year, I saw one guy make big plays game in, game out. Well, really since last year in the Six Nations is partially in the World Cup, but especially now. That guy's name is Blair Kinghorn. He's been nothing but a menace for Scotland. He's been a proven commodity at fullback, really. When you want an attack guy, you have him. When you want a kicking guy, you have him. He's a man of all trades, a true attacking modern 15 in his form. I love what he brings to the table for that Scott offense. And you know what? He's done amazing stuff week in and week out. And today, or this weekend specifically, has been no exception to that as well. I didn't really understand why Wales continued to do what the Italians did and stack everybody tight, not have really good communication, and just not focus on the wide ball. France has to play in the open space. They have the speedsters to do it, and you're not going to recover with those big boys that they have in the Welsh pack. Something has to be done, and it led to a lot of open opportunities for Blair Kinghorn, Duhan, and those boys to really wreak havoc on that edge, especially through the centers. Another thing that I thought was really good, man, those centers, I think what Scotland does well is, one, they have a good scrum, good tight five. I think they do a great job at that. I think their flankers are a supplemental piece. One could argue it's the opposite, but I personally think so. And then obviously, everything flows through Finn Russell. But what really makes their game special is the way their centers play. Now, everybody remembers Chris Harris and those boys from 2019. They brought a lot of defense and physicality. What they lacked, though, is that ability to open up the space like Hugh Jones can. And those guys, the centers were on a showcase that day. And it all started with them. That opened up holes for Blair Kinghorn to make plays. That opened up holes for the forwards to try to move the ball with, like Gilchrist and those guys. It all starts there, and I think they're going back to their roots, which is this theme that you'll see throughout this weekend's matchups, whether it's in Super Rugby, whether it's in Six Nations, that really prove that these boys mean business, and that, eventually, maybe in the next 3 to 5, hopefully 2 to 3, they will be up there in that conversation once again for that Six Nations Cup, and especially Calcutta, because, man, I really don't understand how long Gregor Townsend's going to have in that space. I think it's widely talked about, at least in the rugby community, or at least people that watch enough Six Nations to know this. If you're not winning the Calcuttas and you're not in contention for Six Nations, I don't know why you're still there. And I think it's going to be a question after this, weekend's matchup on whether or not Gregor Townsend's going to be there. I think he's a talented coach. I just think his time has run out as the Scottish international coach. Another thing that I really didn't like from the Welsh team was just their inability to adjust. They preach in a lot of games, whether it's, football or hockey in the periods, or basketball in periods, or even rugby in halftime, like a football match. Or, I guess you could kind of consider baseball in between the innings. You're looking for your coach to, one, bring a good game plan. 2, scheme up a couple plays, maybe 3 or 4 of the 15 plays, up to 15, really, to really bust open the opponent. Or 3, obviously make adjustments at halftime. I want to see at least 3 to 5, ideally from any coach at any sport. And I just didn't see that from that Welsh side. And, it was disappointing. They have a lot of big guys, big stars, big up-and-comers, in my personal opinion, in that forward pack. And that's something I want to see more often. I just don't see it as much as I would like. And it ends up hurting them in the long haul. Let's move on to my most pivotal game, I think, this weekend. French crushing the Irish in their house. It was a good matchup in Aviva. I'm sad that it was the match that we saw Cian Healy, Connor Murray, and those boys dig out. But you know what? It was the French coming out party for this weekend, showing that they can easily retake the Six Nations title and stop this three-peat. As much as I love my Irish, I gotta admit that green jersey got mollywopped this weekend, and it all started through one thing and one thing only: the back three. I think from the back three down, the communication was insane. They stopped everything that the Irish and Stan Prendergast was able to bring to them. Stan Prendergast is a good kicker and good game manager. What did they do? They took away every amount of space they could through one, good spacing on defense, two, good communication on offense, and three, great kick recovery management. Whether it's Thomas Ramos, Bierbari, or the rest of those guys in the forward pack, they were all rushing towards high ball. They were all moving towards the next man, marking up, and making sure fundamental rugby was there. And I think that's, I hate to say it, but in the low bar that I've seen in the last couple of weeks, that is a huge, huge statement to see from Fabien Galthié as a lineup. And those boys came to play. Another thing that kind of complements off of that, obviously, is the French kicking game. You know, whether it was on defense or recovery, they were moving the ball properly and kind of taking off the space because the Irish weren't really playing a good back three when it comes to the depth. And they were taking that away with big booming kicks from that back three pack. On top of that, you know, whether it was chips, grubs, etc., it was a game-changing show for that against the Irish, and I think the French have come to play, and I think this is going to be a good match this weekend versus the English. As for Ireland, I was really disappointed at that staff not really making the adjustments. Again, just like Wales, you have to make those certain adjustments, force them to get off what they're good at. Or if you're going to be really good at it, force them to stop you. It's that kind of adjustments that really save a game and put people in the high chairs where they belong, whether it's in, you know, in this case, a director of rugby or a, you know, attacker backs coach versus a analyst, or in football, a head coach versus offensive coordinator. It's gonna, you know, it's gonna lead to firings. It's gonna lead to hirings. Those kind of things are important to rugby, and it all starts right there. And they did not do enough, and I was very disappointed. You know, while Jack Crowley did good again, what is so surprising? That guy needs to be in the starting lineup immediately. I don't understand why. Don't get me wrong, Prendergast is good. Kieran Frawley is good. But Jack Crowley is the linchpin to why this team did good last year. They were a rising star 2 years ago with Johnny Sexton, and they're a reason why they're kind of floundering now. I think it's not a winnable thing, but it's a factor. Same thing like with James Lowe. James Lowe hurt his, I believe it was a back spasm in pregame warmups. You know, they replaced him with Calvin Nash really late to the point where they barely could get the lineup out. It's that kind of thing. For that, I would say it's less of a game-winning thing versus having Jack Crowley in there. You know, James Lowe, different player. I think it would have helped a bunch, you know, especially with the high ball and chips, because he's good at it. And he's great in the air. High ball is one of his things. But versus Calvin Nash, who's more of a speedster, open space man, loves to attack with the grub and chip. You know, they're different play styles. I don't think it would have been a game-winning decision to keep him in there, but it would have been a game-hurting decision to put in James Lowe. All right, as for my team of the week, you know, simple stuff. I don't really think I need to explain this as much, but here we go. All right, we got Jean-Baptiste Gros in my starting prop and tight head. Dan Sheehan at hook. We got Will Stewart at loose head. Mikael Gouillard, I'm pretty sure I butchered that. Sorry if I did. We got Ollie Chessum at 5. I thought he did a great job versus the Italians, you know, playing the high ball, running with a menacing attitude. We love to see that. We got Tom Curry and Ben Earl from England. They continue to produce day in and day out. Now, Tom Curry is obviously a star. Ben Earl is becoming a star, and we're watching with our very eyes him become the arguable 7 or 8 man for England. And I think he's going to be a stalwart there for a long time. I think he's going to get an Irish Lions cap with my homeboy, Tommy Raffel. I think he belongs in there as well as soon as he gets back from recovery and really getting that, you know, sad taste out of his mouth from the Six Nations. And then obviously I got Gregory Algieri, the only guy I could put at this 8 spot. He's been nothing but a freak all year at Six Nations. I love seeing him in provincial play. He's going to be a menace for years to come. Anton Dupont goes in there. Even though he tore up his knee, man, did he do some magical things. Ran great support lines, great offloads. What can I say? Ange Capowozzo and Marcus Smith go in my 10 and 11 spot. Ange Capowozzo, Marcus Smith, no explaining there. All right, we got Hugh Jones and Jamie Osborne there. Hugh Jones, I just explained why he was so good. Jamie Osborne, I think what he did well was he really complemented, whether it was off the bench this year or in the starting lineup this game. Did a great job at game management, spacing. He did great at clearing kicks. Powerful in defense, movement of the ball on offense. Basic things that I want out of a 13, needed him in there. And then obviously I put Louis Bierbari in my 14 spot and Blair Kinghorn in my 15. For my bench, I believe I went with a 5-3 bomb squad level split. I went with Andrew Porter at my 16, Mario Toje at my 17, Will Rollins and Kalen Doris at my Lucy/lock. You could argue Will Rollins could play loose forward as well in 16 and 17. And then, 18 and 19. And then obviously I got Jack Morgan in there as my final linchpin in the forward spot. Couldn't leave him out. He did a great job despite a terrible effort. He's been doing that all year, really. And I think his effort needs to be recognized. As for my last three, I have Damian Peno. Couldn't leave him out of this list. You could argue he should be above a Ange Kapuoso, but I don't know. I can't really, just because of just pure effort on it. We watch Ange Kapuoso do a lot of amazing things, really. Same thing can go for Tomas Ramos, who's in my 23 spot. I could argue, he should be in there over Blair Kinghorn, but I just think Blair Kinghorn has been doing this for a lot less of a time. He's been one of the linchpins on a very losing effort, and he deserved to be up there. And I think 22, pretty easy, Tom Freeman. My Seattle Sharks boy has been doing amazingly well in the Six Nations when he's been given the time. Just give him the touches and he works. He's always finding the end zone like the Will Jordan for England. I think he needs to be in there in that starting spot. Okay, as for Super Rugby, again, a lot of upsets, a lot of shakes up. I think some of the things were a lot of what we expected, and a lot of things were just simple mistakes that really should be ironed out, hopefully soon, because they're pretty obvious and very elementary level mistakes. As for Moana, I thought they stomped the Canes through really putting them through their own mistakes. Obviously, the Canes have been rolling on a disrespectful B side against this Moana A side, who's been doing a damn good job of forcing their opponents to make their mistakes and playing fast break ball off of them, doing what the Fijian Drua have done for the last, 3-4 years against most of these Super Rugby teams, and I think they're playing off of that and doing a good job. Tano Umaga's side has been drilled against these kind of opponents, playing that underdog mentality, and that's exactly what we got here tonight. Oh, and then, where was this Braden Iyose all year? I've been missing his attack form, his defensive abilities, his motor. That hasn't been seen all year. I've only saw this against this team, and that's depressing. When you're looking at the lineup they faced, I should have been seeing talent across the board for this Hurricanes side, and outside of a couple guys, and especially in the backs, not really looking good. Obviously, whichever nation has the rights to Simisu Tupo, Miracle Faingalagi, and Karen Tui Moloau is going to be a great spot in the long run. Those guys, whether it's playing basic fundamental rugby, whether it's playing with attitude and bringing physicality to everything they do, or even, making other players look bad on the edge. Man, we saw a lot of things happen in this lineup that night that was amazing. Whether it was that little hurdle that Kyron did, etc. It was that kind of thing that I want to see every week. I think hurdle should be back in rugby within reason, and that's one of the reasons why. Wow, we need to see more of that. As for Ruben Love, I thought it was great to see him back. I just think, on attack, he looked phenomenal. On defense, man, did he get beat in so many embarrassing ways. It was just really bad angles. And it's just something that, I think whether it's getting back up to speed to get those angles, or getting that extra physical touch to just get to the ankle tap. I think he missed a lot of those, and I think he's going to get back to it. I don't think he's, lost a step or he's washed by any sense of the word. But, we're going to see that incrementally as he gets back fully into match shape. Obviously, I think the Canes winning in every attack margin, but just losing in penalties and turnovers, that's not going to win you matches. I don't care how long you hang on to the ball. If you knock it on 20 times and the guys get kicks at the goal, you're going to lose that game every time. And that's what it starts and ends with, is how much can you hang on to the ball without giving it up to the other opponent. And I'd say, fortunately, the Canes did a lot of things good, but the biggest things, they did it wrong. And that goes into the Blues. Obviously, they're continuing to track, but not necessarily do in the the damage that I want to see. I think when you're looking at, I love how they're finally kind of focusing on defense, getting in that physicality, that argy-bargy back in to really force that 25, 27 tackles by those forwards. Could be Anton Segner, AJ Lamb, Rico Ioane, you can name it. They've done a lot of impressive work when it comes to that, just locking down opponents. When it comes to the Brumbies, man, they're back three in that loose head, trio, that loose forward trio. They can do some damage when it comes to out wide. They got some speedsters all across the board. Powerful guys like Lenny Gitao and those boys back there. And, for Rico Ioane, AJ Lamb, and Todd Segner, you name it, to stop them in their tracks and really keep that low-hanging fruit of that offense together. It's been a nice change of pace, and I think the Blues can focus on this a little bit more going forward. They'll be a superb team in the playoffs. I've been talking about this for years, and I think this needs to be mentioned again. You should put Beauden Barrett in as your running threat at 10. You obviously can see when he's making decisions at 10 at the line, and you're giving him not at the 15 spot and letting him work, he becomes a menace. We saw it all day for the last 2 weeks. And it just so happens at the time that they actually featured him in the game plan this time, he fractured his hand. So I'm a little sad at how they massacred my boy. I understand that he'll be out for probably at least a month of 6 weeks, but it's definitely depressing to know that, the Blues are going to be without that kind of threat. They've been missing it for so long. The media, fans have been calling him washed. And, I know he's not. He's still got at least 5 years in him. He's still that freak. He's still that guy. You just have to let him get the opportunities and get that shot, and it starts like that. Hopefully they'll keep it when he comes back. I do like how AJ Lamb, I think he deserves a black jersey at the end of the day. AJ Lamb has been nothing but a solid player for the Blues for the last, 3-4 years. He's been nothing but, improving every year, whether it's attacking the ball straight, playing good support line, running good defense, playing with an attitude. That's the kind of player I want in a 13 or 12 jersey. And, having him in the Blues lineup has definitely amplified the Blues and in at least more than a couple degrees moving for that direction. And I'm very happy for him. I think he deserves to be recognized in this year. Hopefully he just stays healthy. So another thing to note is, can we all just talk about how the Brumbies look so much better with Cam Meredith rather than Nua Lolemiso or Lolesio as he's officially named? When they can go back to their roots, like I said, in the Six Nations, to play the way they're supposed to play, they do great. All you need is a game manager. Give it to the back three. Give it to those Lucies. Let the forwards start taking turnovers. That's where they win. They're going to win that every time, and it's going to be a winning formula if you just get that down. And you're not going to do that with Lolesio. I don't know how, again, I'll say it again. I don't know how he's managed to stay this long in a rugby position. Despite the fact that the Brumbies have a great back three, they wasn't really used to it for obvious reasons because of that lockdown defense by the Blues. I think what I really love, though, is how they won every attack margin simply with the forwards. The forwards won this game. The forwards pushed it forward. And that's what I think the Brumbies should do. Again, getting back to their roots. That's where it mattered before, and it's going to matter again and again moving forward. The forwards are not, going away. It's not going to be an all-black run game. It's not rugby league. This is where forwards shine. This is where every, asset across the park matters. And I'm glad to see that's finally back in motion with the Brumbies. I hope Larkham keeps this moving forward. As for their turnovers, the Drua lost a lot of turnovers. They lost 3 + 3 over the Blues. They managed to still retain the ball, and not only that, create crucial line-out success, something they've been missing arguably since they've been ingested into this game. The Chiefs have had one of the best set pieces since, I've been watching rugby, and arguably definitely before that. It's something that they pride themselves in every day, and we haven't seen it like that. And this is the day that it actually came into fruition. I've never expected this, and you know what? I'm very happy that it happened because the Drua deserve it. They have athletes across the board. They don't have to just play Flying Fijian Flair. They can also win you in these kind of things. I think what also helped is the 87% tackle win success rate. They didn't miss tackles really at all. And, they consistently hit hard, make sure the tackles stayed down. And that's something that really matters. Obviously their kicking game has been superb with Isaiah Armstrong-Ravula in there versus having Caleb Muntz. For whatever reason, he's not been playing good all year. I don't know what's going on with that. But it really helped disable, just like the Blues did, their open attack. And I think that really matters because when you can stop guys like Sean Stevenson, Anton Leonard-Brown, Imoni Narawa, who is basically erased from this game outside of kicking in a couple runs, that's huge. I can come off from a locker room even with a loss and say, they did a good job. We did a good job at stopping their best players from destroying us. And that's exactly what the Drua did in spades. Great accomplishment. I think they deserve a little bit of accolade right there. Tip of the hat to you, sir, over there. And obviously having Sean Stevenson back, I thought that was huge. I really thought he was going to be out for the whole year. But, he came back. We saw those little snippets in training of, him kicking a ball with a little taped knee. Man, did he come back with a vengeance. He didn't have to run with the ball as much as I thought, but he managed to do a lot of things when it came to dummies, setting up guys for open routes because he's such a threat. Obviously, his kicking game, he opened up a lot of things for the Chiefs to do. It just didn't happen to work, capitalize. It's whether it was just the timing, the amount of intensity from his boot. He's going to work on that all year, I'm sure. And I think we haven't seen the last of Sean Stevenson at his peak just yet. Scooters is a man amongst boys, and that'll come back very, very, very soon. I think the last thing I obviously have to think about for this one is just we'll see in the next few rounds how Celestino Rabu Tamanda is. We didn't get to see him in this match. I thought he was a little under-involved in this game, but he didn't need to. They allowed the other playmates, they allowed, the other team members to really feed off of each other, and I think that's better than having a one-trick pony on there. But I want to see him go back to his highlight level roots, and I think we're going to see that again, kind of like Scooter, real soon, hopefully. Another team I want to proverbially give the tip of the hat to is the Sabres for having JOC on their side and giving the Reds their first L of the Super Rugby comp, with JOC helping scheme up a beautiful show for them. They did a great job, and as us Americans know, pulling in Adrian Peterson with the guava stick on their long lost stepchild. I think this is going to be a great rivalry for years to come, even long after JOC is gone, because they did a bad job of trying to contain the Crusaders in every aspect of the game. Whether it was Will Jordan, Sever Reese, the Lucy's, Ethan Backladder, Christian Leo Willie, those guys, ooh, yeah, they failed ultimately. I think I would have to give them an F grade for this weekend. I really do think it was a bad call by the Reds to use the tight back three lineup, as I talked about in 3 matches already, of just bringing their back three in, this force in the line. I get it. You want to try to stop the offload, kind of cover a little bit more of those routes so that Sever Reese and Will Jordan can run, but you're not doing a good job in covering the open field that these kick artists, such as Anton Leonard Brown, Che Fihaki, David Havili, Sevu Reese, obviously Will Jordan. They all have legs, massive legs, and that's what set the Crusaders up for so many beautiful tries and so many beautiful accolades when it came to getting deep ball runs and allowing their forwards to just mutilate this Reds team. I think, also call it a hot take as well, but I think Kyle Preston is the new second in charge of the 9 spot, just behind our homie Cam Roygard, friend of the show. Man, I did not expect this. I love what he's doing on attack. I love to see what he does in defense, especially tight to the ruck, especially at scrums when they try to bring in tight and try to push it on him. He does a great job at that. Maybe I'm a little too early. Okay, I can admit that. But as a whole, this team is ready, and Kyle Preston's taking the extra step upon his step on his career accolades, and I think at the end of the day, we're going to see him in the black jersey in the next 1 to 2 years. Also, a little miscellaneous thought, I love to see what the Reds can do when it comes to linking up with their stars. Stars linking up with stars is a big thing. We don't see it with a lot of teams other than maybe like the Chiefs, but they do it extremely well. They run great support lines, but it just didn't impact the game the way I thought. Obviously, when you're looking at what the Reds really need, I think what really did the Reds in, unfortunately, was just checking Crafty on Christian Leo Willie, Blackadder, and the Stars. They were just hitting them hard, checking them, forcing them to really make that move. Can you get up from this hit? Are you going to have the intensity to try to do the offload? Don't do it, because I got my next guy next to me who's going to take that and take it to the house. And that really put, I think, the fear of God into the opponents, in the Reds' minds, and it really got in their head. If you don't want to be religious, you can just say, they took their souls proverbially. Doing that in a manner, any manner. I think one thing the Crusaders really did really well, though, is by putting the fear of God, or taking the souls away of the Reds' attack. Forcing that back three with Tim Ryan, Filippo Dungun, and those boys to really not be able to use what they do best. Using those wheels, those offload, and that open field strength against them, because they got crafty checks by the, Christian Leo Willie, Ethan Blackadder, Cullen Grace, and those boys. And you know what? It put the fear into them, knowing that, if I'm going to take this ball, I'm going to get popped in the next 2 seconds. On top of that, I'm not going to have the strength to be able to give a defty offload or, force this ball into someone else's hands. I'm going to be shot for the next 2 to 3 phases. And guess what? That mentality shift, that slows down a team so much in the long haul. Another team that I really think people are doubting, but shouldn't be doubting now, at least by now, hopefully, in 4 rounds, is the Waratahs being undefeated. I've talked about them ad nauseum for many years, whether it's socially or now on this podcast, saying that, they're going to be the next team to Australia to win a Super Rugby title. To hell with the Brumbies. To hell with any other team threatening judgment. This team is coming, and you know what? No one's going to stop them. And look what's happening now. This team is on a hot run like never before seen, and the last time they did this, they won a title. Can we just say that? I'm not going to say, they're going to go undefeated, but they're definitely on the chance to win a title. Fast track, definitely. I really did like that it was the first emergence, in my opinion, of Nagaishi-Lyman. Don't get me wrong. He's been a great player over the years, but you know what? This is the first night that I've actually seen him be a star in this game. Not only do complimentary work, but show up in an extreme scale that would arguably beat Angus Bell for accolades in that forward spot. Another player that I love to watch, for obvious reasons, another friend of the show, Max Jorgensen. Jorgo, my boy, you know what? You haven't been really as active as this game as I've seen since really your rookie year in 2013. You've done a great job all around in this game, whether it was elusiveness, playing the high ball, picking out for outs, great awareness. It all starts there. And you know what? The ceiling is only up from here, my boy. I wish the best for you. And you know what? I think we're going to see you in at least a semifinal or possibly even a final push. The Waratahs have the team to do it, the coaching and the development staff to do it. And I think this is a culture that, coaching wise, you might prove me wrong. I actually have eaten my words at this. And I hope to see my Australian team pull valiantly into the finish. I also could tell, I love Dalen Page. I'm sad that he left the Waratahs just with Ben Donaldson, but I think he was in the best position to succeed until he got gun shy. Can I just say that inside ball run with that hit by Angus Bell, I think it made him gun shy. We didn't really see him the rest of the game. He wasn't much of a threat, and I was just surprised, honestly, at how he ran with the ball after that. I think what the Taz really need to work on is just continuously work their post-contact meter tackles, just stopping them in a wall. Not everybody, I'm not asking everybody to be Angus Bell and just start cleaning people out of their clocks, but, just stop them from getting that post meters. We've seen this in the last 4 weeks. I'm not necessarily been covering it because it's not been a problem, I would say, until now where I recognize it. But, it's something that I think it needs to stop because you're gaining extra meters than they have to. You're putting your guys on the back foot because they're constantly having to back up. You need to be able to set up and make plays. And against a fast team like New Zealand teams, you're going to get absolutely destroyed. Hopefully we see them do big things against the Blues. I think that's the hot team from New Zealand right now, but we should see some work. I think another thing that the Force need to obviously look at is losing 20 turnover penalties and the turnover margin just straight up destroyed. Obviously, like I said, you're not going to win any games off of that. I think any coach would tell you that. You dug yourself in a hole early. It's hard to get out of that hole. And, when you're looking at the Force, they have a bright future ahead of them, good stars. It was supposed to be the revenge game for them against their former team. A lot of guys from the Waratahs played there. A lot of guys from the Rebels who have friends that play against the Waratahs play there. This is supposed to be their night, and, it didn't happen for them. I think it won't happen in future years or even a future matchup, but who knows? All right, as for my team of the week, I think, this should be self-explanatory again, but if I have any star-ridden sellouts, I think I'll put him in there as well. I had started off with Angus Bell, obvious reason, number 1 spot. Ricky Riccatelli, I thought he did a great job continuing his run as probably best hooker in the comp for Super Rugby. He's done everything well from running the ball. He's back to 2019 Hurricanes form, and I can't believe this. I never thought I would see the day where he would beat and win out that job from Kurt Eklund, who at one point was arguably better than him when he got signed. Having him in the lineup has moved the Blues into a different direction. I love what he's doing again in his resurgence of his later career. He deserves that number 2 spot. Put Pierce over from the Force also in number 3. Again, revenge game, good guy, great play. Just didn't get the win this weekend. I put Antonio Chalfoun from the Crusaders in my number 4 spot. I haven't recognized him over the last couple weeks, but I think he's done a great job of really moving the ball with his hands, playing a great physical ball at the lock, and obviously getting good lineup play. Darcy Swain, no explanation there at 5. Charlie Tizano and Longy Gleason, again, no explanation. Samisi Tupou, I feel like I don't really need to explain that. Did that above. Tate McDermott at 9. I could argue you could have put Cam Roigard up here, but I think Tate McDermott, despite the loss, played very hard, really well. He's been doing that for years. Win or lose, he's going to give you his 110%, and I loved what I saw when, he got into open space. Bowden Barrett, obvious reasons. All right, for my back 3, I put Sevu Reese, Max Jorgensen, Will Jordan. Already explained. Filippo Dungunu and AJ Lamb. Filippo Dungunu has been doing exceptional things for the Reds for the last 3 weeks. Again, didn't get the dice this week, but I think he's going to do good things for the Reds all year. Overwhelmingly great player. 16 through 23, I have Fletcher Newell, Tavite Canavere, Tom Hooper, Harry Wilson, and Christian Leo Willie in my number, 5 of 3. And then we got in my back 3 for reserves, I got Lawson Creighton. Loved seeing what he did in the 10 jersey, taking over for Tane Edmed for the Waratahs, doing what he did in attack. He didn't need to do it a lot in attack meters because the other boys did it well. But game management, great job. Thought another one was good. That was Ponipate Logani Masi from the Fijian Drua. For obvious reasons, if you watch the highlights, he's all over the place every single weekend. He's becoming the new Iosefo Masi since, that boy has somehow left the building when it comes to overall performance. Also, Tom Wright, didn't do anything electric, but did a great job in, kicking, displaying space, etc. I thought he did a good job. All these guys did a good job. A lot of guys that could have put on this list but didn't. You guys can debate on this in the comments, but thank you for watching. What 53rd episode? Yes, thank you for watching. I'll see you guys next week. Let's debate in the comments. Peace.